So Creed 3 is the third film in the Creed saga that spun off from Rocky. And I think the one thing that I think I love about Creed 3 the most is that it's the one film that doesn't feel like it's just, trying to play off more of the Rocky legacy. It always feels like, when you have these sort of like torch passing films, these kind of like soft reboots where they're bringing back old characters but want to stress new ones. They always feel like they're not quite willing to let go. Like it's supposed to be like a torch passing thing, but it's like okay, cool, pass me the torch. Okay, let go. Let go. You need to let go and let me do my own thing with it. And Creed 3 is very much that, for a number of reasons. Number one is because, I don't know how much spoiler this is, but Rocky is not present in this film. This is the first Creed film where we don't get Sylvester Stallone returning to the role of Rocky. We don't get much mention of Rocky's legacy. We do briefly touch on Apollo, but not a whole lot. It's mostly feels like this is fully Adonis Creed's story entirely. It doesn't feel like he's trying to match up or trying to like fight more old characters from the past. It feels like an entirely new and contained boxing sports drama where the word Rocky doesn't even like come up in this film. So yeah, it's entirely Creed's film. So Michael B. Jordan returns to the role of Adonis Creed, and a lot of time has passed. You might remember that Creed 2 was, 2018, I believe. It was a long time ago. And of course, like in that time, Adonis has grown up a bit. He's settled down and he's married Bianca, reprised by Tessa Thompson. He has a daughter now who, he communicates like she's deaf, so they communicate through sign language. He has a nice life. He runs a gym, he runs talent, and he's kind of more of like a coach and a behind the scenes type of guy. And so he's become like much older and he's trying to like think about what do I want to do next with my life, but at the same time he's also still haunted by his past. We get to see a lot more of like his younger days, and an old acquaintance of his by the name of Dame, or like Damian Anderson, I believe, but his boxing name is like Dane, and he's played by Jonathan Majors, who is just like if you've seen like Jonathan Majors, like he's playing Kang in Ant-Man Quantumania, and he has a presence to him. He has this fierce, dominating, intimidating presence to him, where if you wanted to choose someone to get in the ring with Michael B. Jordan for this film, like Majors is so perfect for this type of role. So Majors comes back. Dame comes back into Adonis's life, after he's just gotten out of prison, where he feels like Adonis was partially responsible because he shoved that life aside and wants to try to like redeem himself. So Adonis, feeling guilty about, having left his friend behind, decides to give him another shot and let him try out for some boxing. The problem is that Dame is too good at boxing, like aggressive and violent, and he's basically a bully. And they drop all pretense of him trying to like he's become like fully bitter through Adonis kind of like just shoving him off to the side for all these years, that he's not just about revenge, he's about like taking it out on everyone and like making his dreams come true of becoming a title champ and letting that be his entire personality. Like they show him early on where that was kind of his dream, and here he is, he's achieved that dream, and he's just the worst. He's just insulting and spiteful and violent and aggressive. So he's the perfect he's the perfect opponent for Creed, because there's more on the line than just, defending his title, which he does, and bring him out of retirement, which he does. But it's a battle of these two and their friendship. And the thing is, for this, I love the fact first that this type of film it's very nonlinear. Like we get like bits and pieces of Creed's past that are interspersed throughout. So we never get like the full story of his connection with Dame and, his troubled childhood. It kind of like slowly comes into the picture. I guess like my biggest problem, I think, with the film is that I think it sets up a lot of mini arcs that don't quite pay off, specifically with Bianca and Creed's daughter, Amara. They have interesting little mini arcs. Like Bianca is also kind of retired, like kind of more off, not quite retired, but kind of like off to the scenes. Like she loves to record music, and now she's kind of off to the side as a producer. Amara is having problems in school with bullying, and both Creed and Bianca are conflicted about, should she learn to fight, and what's the point of her learning to fight. And I kind of wish that those arcs paid off a little bit more, but they all just kind of feel like little stepping stones to get Adonis up to like the next point where he finally has to confront Dame, which is fine. It's just like I felt like there was more to explore there, and it kind of, at least on the surface, it looks like it's kind of spinning its wheels in its first act, just trying to find stuff for Adonis to do. But I had to say, though, like, there were some surprises here. Like, from what I described, like, it seems like Creed 3 is a pretty, like, simple film. Creed feels guilty about Dame, builds him up as a title fighter. He gets too much power, he takes over, and Creed has to knock him down. Pretty standard stuff. We even get a lot of the standard tropes of this type of film. We get, of course, the training montage where Creed's running and he's pulling planes and he's lifting stuff and he's gritting his teeth and he's getting back up when he thinks he can't go any further, and triumphant music plays. Same deal as Creed 2. What I will say is that by the time it got to the climax, and the fight scenes, to the film's credit, they're still well shot. They're amazingly shot, in fact, I liked it a lot more than Creed 2 in the way that it was framed. And I think a lot of that has to do with Michael B. Jordan taking over as director here. And for anime fans, this is great because Michael B. Jordan has stressed that a lot of his bigger influences for this was, looking at fights in like Naruto and Dragon Ball Z. And if you look closely, you can see a little bit of that influence in the way that he frames shots and how he finds just the right moments to slow down and show you the body blows and show you, the pain, on his face when he gets like punched in the gut really hard. There's a lot of great shots like that. But what really surprised me is that during the climax, there's a beautiful, like, it's just the best way I can describe it is beautiful. There's a great moment where just like, in order to stress that this is like a more kind of like personal fight, the entire arena just kind of like just fades out and it's just empty. And you're just watching just Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors in the ring, slamming at each other, just growling at each other in front of like an empty ring in darkness. And then occasionally like jail bars will be on like the sides of the ring to kind of like stress, what the history they had was and what they're fighting about, and just the narrow vision that they've been locked in with like their rivalry. And it's so great. Like it's kind of like placed right in the middle to kind of like, kind of like bridge the gap, just so you don't get tired of like watching round after round after round of them like slamming on each other and like, watching them wear each other down. I feel like if if you didn't have that scene, like this film would just be like, just be like a smash cut of just all the punches, and then they show up like, round 5, round 6, round 7, and that'd be kind of boring. And I really appreciated the fact that there was this huge stylistic choice to kind of just shove everything out and just make kind of like a more like minimalist fight where you're not seeing like the spectacle of the stadium and like the commentators, everything just silence, and you're just watching these guys like beat down on each other. And it's so powerful to just see that, just especially because you're seeing these two actors just throw everything they have into these roles. Like I love Creed's like confliction about the past, like how he's a little bit standoffish, even despite the fact that like the dialogue here is like it's pretty like surface level. Like characters speak pretty frankly about what they are, what they're feeling and what they need to address. And there's not as much ambiguity, which is kind of interesting because like the nonlinear style of telling the story, I feel, has a lot more ambiguity, where they kind of like quietly address these moments here and there. I didn't even get to the mention of like Felicia Rashad back as Mary Ann Creed, who has a very emotional arc to her. I feel like she is kind of one of the more like conclusive arcs. I don't want to say like it's expanded upon because I don't feel like it's as big as Bianca's or Amara's, but you do feel a lot more with it. And I will say this for there's probably maybe like one scene where Apollo is addressed by name, and it's in such the perfect scene. It's in one of the saddest moments in the film, and it kind of recognizes Apollo less as like a figure to live up to, but more as like, you know, someone from the past that, you know, you kind of like quietly learn from, and kind of like see how far this, you know, to see how far Adonis has come with his boxing career. And I gotta admit, it kind of won me over. Like, you know, through the first act, it was kind of going like bit by bit, and I kind of saw where it was going, and, you know, characters, you know, spoke very, very frankly. But after a while, it just, you know, the way that it was the direction, I think, really won me over. That by the end, when you get to the climactic fight, even though there's a lot of cool fights that are exceptionally staged throughout the film, but by the time you get to the climax, I was entirely won over by the film. Especially, and I know I keep harping on this, but I love the fact that this is a film that can stand on its own. It's not like Creed 2 where it's got to like dust off another villain for, you know, our hero to fight and, you know, come to terms with Rocky's legacy and Apollo's legacy. No, this film is about Adonis Creed's legacy all his own, and he gets to dominate this film, which is a result of both just the, you know, of the screenplay here by Keaton Kugler and Zach Balin, but also Michael B. Jordan's direction, which just is so powerful in this film. So actually, in terms of like the other how it stacks up against the other Creed films, I still love the first Creed film the most, just because I think the writing is just so pitch perfect. I feel like it has the perfect balance of you know, of drama and humor and the grit of like a boxing sports drama. Creed 2 is still my least favorite, just because it feels like it's trying way too hard to kind of like force in more of that Rocky legacy. But Creed 3 is kind of in the middle. Like I like it a lot more than Creed 2. I just feel like some of the writing didn't work for me. Not as much of it, and it's mostly just in the first act where you know, where you know it feels a little exposition heavy. But once it gets over those hurdles with setting everything up and establishing the stakes that Creed has for both his, you know, his career and his friendship and his family, then the film really takes off, and that's when it really becomes a sports drama all its own. And that's what I love so much about Creed 3.